Oops. Hello, Tina.
Hello, Paula.
We are live, and I gotta work on that kink right there. Switching over from that song. If anybody knows of a special app I can use to do that on Zoom, it would be much appreciated because that trips me up pretty much every week. Welcome to Part of My Positivity. I'm Paula Lynch, your host, and this week I have a special guest, Christina Shub. So welcome, Christina. For those of you who are new to our broadcast, we're streaming live on YouTube and 2 channels on Facebook. That would be my personal page and Glitter Shoes and Happiness too. I will do my best to watch both of those pages throughout the broadcast so that if you post any comments or anything, I can see them. But forgive me if I miss anything because I'm a crew of 1 here in my spare bedroom of my house. For new viewers, Pardon My Positivity is a show that's all about finding happiness in your life, making positive changes so that you can have better days because we only have so many of them. And for those who don't know me, my name is Paula Lynch. By day, I'm an accountant. At night, I'm a bartender. And all the time, I'm a happy chick. Not because my life is perfect, but because I choose to be happy. So we're here to help you make some of those same choices in your life. How the show works is we come on about every 2 weeks. We pick a topic to cover and we just chat away for an hour to let you know some tips and ideas on how you can use this particular topic to better your life. And every week, at least for the last 3, I've had a special guest. And tonight, my special guest is super special because not only is she a friend of mine, but she happens to be my little sister.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I followed in my sister's footsteps. I'm also an accountant by day. And I'm very excited to be on the show and share my stories related to the topic tonight.
Christina, not only is she an accountant, but she has like degrees all over the place in accounting. So she's done a lot more school than I have done. But she also, I asked her to be on the show today because one of the reasons I feel she's an excellent candidate for today's topic is because she's in a long-term relationship with, I'm going to say Adam. Adam. She's been in a long-term relationship with Adam. Together, they have a child. And how long have you guys been together?
12 years. We met in 2010, but we did take a 3-year break. So, overcoming that and finding out what makes us really happy and working through everything. Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons I thought that Christina could really add some insight because tonight's topic is knowing your love language. So we're going to talk about knowing how you need people to express love to you and how you can express love properly to other people. And that's actually part of maintaining a long-term relationship, especially in Christina and Adam's case, because they took a break for a couple of years and have decided that they're going to make the effort to learn each other and make this work and forever. So this is a perfect opportunity for them to utilize a lot of the tips that we'll be doing today. So they've been working on this stuff already. So do you have anything else you want to tell us about you, Christina, you and your family, your life?
Yes. So 2010, that's 12 years ago. It's quite some time. I was just in my early 20s back then. So we were both pretty young and wild and really liked to have a lot of fun. Then we had a baby and things got serious, and I was studying. And as you grow, as you change in your personality, things that you value, things that you prioritize in your life changes. You have to have the right kind of partner with you to make sure that everything in your life is culminating in happiness and joy. And you want positivity around you. You want people that support you. And we did hit a rough patch where we just were in two different places, and we took some time off. But in that time, I mean, we realized that we were really in love with each other. So it's just time for us to make personal changes and more effort in understanding what each other values, what our love languages are, and how to speak to each other in an effective way to ensure that we're making each other happy and contributing to, I don't know, the joy in that person's life, and making sure that everything that they want to accomplish can be accomplished because we're helping them get there. So, yeah.
See, I knew she was going to be a great guest. So before we get too far into, how Christina and I feel about these particular topics, let's go through what we're talking about today. So we're talking about the 5 love languages, right? And the 5 love languages, this concept was it was a book in 1992. What was his name? Gary Chapman. And Gary Chapman had a slew of degrees, and including theology and anthropology and philosophy. And he developed this theory about the 5 love languages. And it's that each of us, largely depending on how we were raised and our experiences, we experience love in a certain kind of way. What means love to me does not mean the same thing to Christina or to my daughter or to my ex-husband. So in his book, he details the 5 love languages. I peeked there because I have a bruise right here. You see that? I don't even know how that happened. Opening beers, I guess. That's how we do that. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, physical touch, and quality time, right? So those are the 5. So there's lots of ways for you to figure out what language is the language you primarily speak. There's all kinds of tests online that you can take, or you can just do some soul searching. I've never taken a test. I just figured out, this is what mine are. But we're going to go through all of them tonight and do a little chatting about which one each one means, and maybe talk about some experiences we've had with them. But at the same time, it's really important to know that what was your love language today might not be your love language a year from now, might not be the love language that you focused on 7 years ago, because we are constantly changing. We are supposed to be changing. We are human beings. We're supposed to evolve and change all the time. So it's expected. So just because if you find that, man, I thought I was a physical touch person, but I'm really an acts of service person, it shouldn't be concerning, and it shouldn't disappoint you or discourage you, because you're supposed to change. So, and the other thing is, the big thing that you'll see for sure as you go through this is that you probably don't have one love language that you primarily speak. Most people are a combination of love languages. So once we get through them all, I'll go through what mine are. But I have ones that are super high on the list, and then I have ones that are like, no, don't even do that. That doesn't mean anything to me. That you can throw that away, right? So the best explanation I've ever heard for it is there's a lady named Carol Brewis. She's a doctor, and she described it as it's currency. Like, consider the US dollar. Here, the US dollar buys X amount of things, right? If you go to Vietnam with $70,000, you're a billionaire in Vietnam with $70,000, right? You never have to work again. You have a mansion, all kinds of stuff. But you take that same $70,000 and go to Iran, you have no money at all. So love, and the way we show love, is currency. And we have to make sure that we're offering the right currency in the right location. So the right love language to the right people. And that's how we have better relationships. And that's how we love ourselves more. So a reminder, this is a call-in show. I almost forgot that part. So right here above me, call this number, put in this code, and you'll pop up on our screen, and then you can chat with me and Tina. If you are on Facebook, you can comment on my personal page, which, hi, Trixie. Trixie says, I love this topic. So you can comment on my personal page or on Glitter Shoes and Happiness too. Like I said, I'll try to catch all the comments on there. But we love participation from the audience because it really hypes up every one of our topics. So make sure to write in or call in so we can get your information and your take on all of these things. So what do you think, Tina? You're excited about these topics?
I am very excited. Should I just shoot from the hip now? Just start sharing my I did take the quiz.
Well, okay, so
what the quiz results were.
We talked about, well, I said there was 5 love languages. So you took the quiz. So why don't you give us what your top love language is, and then we'll chat about that one and we'll go from there.
So my top one was acts of service, 27%. Then I had words of affirmation, 23%. Physical touch was tied with that at 23%. Then quality time at 20%, and gifts was very small at 7%. So clearly I don't need gifts. As Paula mentioned, I do have a few degrees. That's my master's degree back there right behind me. But so I am fortunate enough to buy my own presents, and really, even when it's my birthday or something like that, the things that mean most to me is what's written in the card. You don't have to buy me anything. And that has gone over really poorly in the past with him and I, just because he would spend a lot of money on a diamond necklace and be very disappointed that my reaction wasn't what it was expecting. But there was no card. And I really just wanted the card. I wanted to see what he had to say in the card, because those words of affirmation mean so much more to me. They have so much more value than an expensive gift. So, and after that happens a few times, you wise up and maybe just make her breakfast in bed, or write her a sweet letter in the morning for no reason. And those things go a lot further for me. And those are things that you learn over time, from getting to know your partner and appreciating what makes them happy. So that's just like one thing that we've learned about each other. The acts of service is really high right now for me. And I think that's just because of all the responsibilities I have with work and home. And it doesn't leave a lot of free time for me, a lot of downtime. So even like the smallest things that he can do to help, if it's vacuuming or sweeping or doing the dishes or taking out the trash. And for a lot of couples, those might be shared responsibilities. But if I don't have to do it, or I don't have to worry about it because I know it's already being taken care of, that means a lot to me, because it relieves the level of stress that I have on my plate. It like relieves some burden for me. So I really, really appreciate that right now. But I can say 7 years ago, that was probably not the biggest one on my list. It was probably more physical touch and quality time. And that's just because I had a lot less on my plate at that point in my life. My daughter wasn't born yet, so I didn't have a small child. I didn't buy my first home yet. There was just less responsibilities that I had. So I didn't need all of that assistance. So as Paula mentioned, things do change in your life. And if you have a partner who wants to help, help your life be better, they want to contribute to the joy in your life or the comfort that you feel, then they will pick up on that. They'll listen when you speak, and they'll help you in those situations and adjust. And I've done the same for him. I mean, he's pretty big, I would say, on quality time and physical touch. Words of affirmation, that's probably his biggest one. I do feel that that's been something strong proudly our whole relationship for him. He's the kind of man who appreciates words of encouragement, somebody who builds him up, and I have no problem doing that. Years ago, I may not have been as vocal, but now I know how much that means to him. I know how much he needs that and how excited he gets and how it builds his confidence. And as somebody's partner, as somebody who loves someone else, you want them to feel confident. You want to, when they feel confident and they go out and they're trying their best or trying things new because they might have been too scared before, but you're encouraging them and it gives them that boost. It's very attractive. It's very attractive and it makes you love them even more. So yeah, I mean, those are just some thoughts I have. I don't think we went over the definitions of each of these. But.
So let's hop to your top one was acts of service. So let's talk about acts of service for a second. So acts of service, that's Tina's number one is acts of service. And we were talking about this before the show actually aired today, because that's my bottom one is acts of service. Right. And that's her top one. So this is one of those times where we talk about it all the time on the show, that we are all different. We are all meant to be different. It doesn't mean that my love language is any better than Tina's love language, or that things would work out better for her than they could work out for me because that's her love language. It just means we're different people. Okay. So for me, acts of service, I don't see those as a love language, because for me, I'm a very independent person. I've always been a very independent person, one of the oldest out of a lot of kids. So I was doing the responsible things myself or with little help from a very young age. So those things are just the things you do in my head. It doesn't mean that it's not true for Tina, but if somebody washes the dishes at my house, I'm like, good, because you dirty dishes. It doesn't mean you love me, just means you want a clean house. So, but it doesn't make it, if that's what has meaning to you, because you take on the responsibilities of the household, that because you feel that your pantry should look a certain way, or you feel that the dishes should be done by a certain time, or you feel that the trash needs to go into the trash cans a certain way, and that your spouse or your children or whoever does those for you, then it's absolutely, like that. That's your love language. That's what you need them to do to show that they love you. It's just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong for anybody. And as you get to know what your language is and really look inside yourself, you'll see, like I did, like I understand that is not my love language because of how insanely independent I am and opinionated, and like I don't need anybody to tell me how to do anything. So I don't need your help doing anything either. I'll do it all by myself. So that's why I don't need those things. Mm-hmm. But what else would acts of service? Actually, this one is I was just talking to my daughter about it earlier today, because this is the one that my ex-husband, that was his big thing, that he felt that him doing acts of service was showing me that he loved me. And I would say, no, that doesn't mean you love me. It means you're a grown up. You went to work today doesn't mean you love me. It means you want to have money for food, right? At that time, I didn't understand love languages. I didn't understand where I was coming from or where he was coming from. I just knew that I wanted something else, and he was just giving me, well, I took the trash out, and that was not enough for me because that wasn't feeding me, right? So this is actually one of the biggest problems for my marriage, was that barrier on love language, because I had no problem doing those things for him, but I could not accept that as showing love to me because it wasn't what I needed. My daughter also mentioned, like for some people, it's a very important love language because they have sensory issues. So things like, they can't have dishes be in the sink overnight. Like that'll actually spike their anxiety really badly.
That's me.
So, yeah. So I'm right. So you experience anxiety. I virtually have no anxiety. I'm not an anxious person. I'm pretty much my entire life, like, okay, it's wrong. I fix it. That's it. I'm not going to sweat over it. The only thing I ever sweated over was my relationships because I worry about what is he doing and he's doing this right and he's doing that right and is he taking care of these things. But outside of that, everything else, I'm a fixer. So I forget that anxiety motivates people.
Mhm.
That's a flaw I have. So some of these things you need the acts of service to alleviate some of the anxiety you have, correct?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And I didn't even know that I had anxiety. That's a new thing for me. I didn't think that that would ever be the case for me. But uh, after recent health concerns, I found out from talking with my doctor that yes, that's actually what I'm going through. It's stress and anxiety. So for me right now, managing that, because a lot of it is not stemming from my relationship, a lot of it's stemming from sources outside of my relationship. So to have a partner who understands what love language is strong for me right now, which is acts of service, and for him to proactively try and assist me with those things, it really means a lot and it helps me.
So Tina's big one was acts of service.
Mhm.
So, well, I'll do my big one next.
Okay.
So since we'll do both of our big ones, I am a touch person. People who know me in real life already know this about me because I am constantly touching everybody all the time. I'm a hugger. I I need to be close to people. I realized during COVID when they started making me stay 6 feet away, that 6 feet is too far. If I'm not within 3 feet, I don't feel like we're having a conversation. I am touchy feely. That's how I know you love me. So if you never, I want you to hold my hand. I want you to stroke my hair. I want you to sit right up next to me. Like if I'm sitting next to you, chances are my leg is gonna move until we're touching. I'm a cuddler, all those kinds of things. That's what I need. And conveniently enough, Wade was an anti-cuddler, didn't want to sit even on the same side of the room as me. So he was going to work and showing he loved me, and I'm dying on the other side of the room. Going, God, please, can you just kiss me once in a while, please? So, I, knowing myself and my childhood and the things that I felt like I was missing as I grew up, and that was one of the things I didn't get enough of. I know it kind of sounds weird. I wasn't hugged enough as a little kid, but I did a lot of hugging as an older sibling. And I did a lot of taking care of other people, but there wasn't a whole lot of taking care of me in a physical way. So I came up lacking that part in my life. And it's not to say I wasn't loved, it's just I didn't get a lot of physical touch. There was one person in my life who was very much about physical touch. That was my grandmother, our grandmother, Nan Shup. And she was very much about a hug and a kiss and I love you. So I'm pretty sure the need stemmed from there because she was my person. She's my influence in my entire life on everything. So because of her influence, I felt like that's something a person who is loved should have all the time because I know she loves me, but I didn't get it from the other sources in my life. So here I am at 48 in a couple weeks. And if you don't touch me, you might as well just go away. How do you feel about touch, Tina? Where did touch wind up on your line?
That was third, but it was tied with affirmation. So it's really second. I mean, words of affirmation and physical touch are right there, hand in hand, in second place. So yeah, that's pretty high on my list too. So just to talk about that, just last night we were watching Moonfall. I don't know if you heard about that movie. It's on HBO Max right now. But anyway, it's
Okay.
an older movie, and we decided to watch that. And I am a physical touch person, even if it's holding my hand. So we're sitting there, we're holding hands, and holding hands for maybe 3 minutes, and then he he gradually moves my hand back over to my lap and taps it and then pulls away. And I'm like, okay, so you can only hold my hand for a certain period of time. But at least it was sweet while it lasted and you let them. But yeah, so I'm definitely a physical touch person too. You did bring up Nan related to physical touch. So because words of affirmation is also tied for second for me. Adam is good at that as well, but there are lots of other people I'm so fortunate to have in my life that speak to that love language for me. And pretty much all of my siblings have been encouraging my entire life, and I have lots of them. So I'm super grateful for that. But I think my biggest cheerleader is our dad. Through everything, I can't even talk about him without almost crying. But yeah, through everything, he's always been encouraging and always believed in me and gave me advice when I was at my worst, just picked me up and just reminded me of the good things I was doing, about how all the effort I was making mattered. And I think if it wasn't for all of that love and those words of affirmation, I wouldn't have had the confidence to get as far as I've gotten to this point now. So that's a huge one for me. And yeah, he's a huge contributor for acts of service too. Anytime I need a babysitter or I'm stuck in a pickle, he's there. I can always count on him to be there. So it doesn't always have to be a romantic relationship, for sure.
Right. This is true. There's you'll see with all of these languages, this doesn't just apply to spouses. We're talking a lot about spouses today because of Tina and Adam, and the reason I asked her to be on the show, because they're actually working on making these changes right now in their lives. But this applies to your friends, this applies to your coworkers, your siblings, your kids. You know, I read a study recently that was like, if your toddler is flipping out, screaming all the time, you know, maybe what it is you're rewarding them by cuddling, and they don't want you to touch them. They want you to tell them that they did a good job. So maybe you're not figuring out what your kids' love language is. And you know what? We don't do that. We just assume that our kids speak the same love language as us, but we're teaching them as they grow what their love language should be, you know, what they develop a love language based on what we do with them. But you can't automatically assume, even with your children, that how they feel loved is the same as how you feel loved. At the end of when we get closer to the end of the show, we'll really get into how to see those things with other people. So before we get off of touch, real quick, we need to mention that sex, because that is physical touch. And this becomes a big issue for couples, because one person will highly associate sexual activity with physical touch, and the other person will know that and use that to try to get their form of love language from the other person. So we have to make sure to mention that it's not just sex. Touch is not only about sex, it's also about other touches, kiss on the cheek, holding hands, a hug, lots of ways that are not sexual at all. But the sexual realm does fall into the touch love language. And as with any love language, if you know what your significant other's love language is and you purposely decide not to fulfill it, that's never going to work. You need to communicate these things and work together so that you can both be happy in that situation. So Tina went on next to words of affirmation. So let's talk about words of affirmation. Big one is saying I love you, but not everybody can say I love you. That's not a thing that everybody can do, right? You know, are you an I love you person?
Oh, big time. Oh,
yeah,
I love everybody.
Right. Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you, stranger. It's coming down the road. Is Adam and I love you?
Not as much as I'd like. No. Yeah. You know, how many times can I say I love you? There's never too many times. You can say it constantly. It doesn't lose value.
same with me. It doesn't lose value when you say it, but to some people, it does. I've actually been told by someone that sometimes I overdo it a little bit because I'm giving words of affirmation or expressing my love orally to somebody by telling them, how I feel about them. They're like, yeah, sometimes it's a little overwhelming because you say it a lot. I know you love me. You don't have to say it so much. So, but there's a lot of ways to say I love you without saying I love you. Call me so I know you got home safe. Did you eat today? I'm really proud of you. I really appreciate you taking the trash out for me. Those kinds of things. Those are all words of affirmation and other ways to say I love you. So I don't know. As you grow with people, you get to learn what their ways of saying I love you are. So you don't need to hear the words. It reminds me of, everybody knows the movie Ghost, right? So Patrick Swayze, he dies, and Demi Moore, she's left behind, but he never would say I love you. She would say I love you, and he would just say ditto, right? And that meant I love you. And all the years in their relationship, that's all he just said, ditto, ditto. So when he died and he found Whoopi Goldberg as a medium, and she came back to talk to Demi Moore to tell her, oh, watch out, somebody's trying to kill you. Demi Moore was like, he's here and he says I love you. And no, Whoopi Goldberg was like, he's here and he says I love you. And Demi Moore was like, that ain't him, because he would never say I love you. Right? So, but they understood that's how he communicated. That was his words of affirmation to her, to say ditto. So what have we not covered yet? Gifts. You spoke briefly about gifts because you don't need anybody to buy you gifts.
Yes, correct. And there's also quality time. We didn't touch on quality time either.
All right, so let's do gifts first. How do you feel about gifts, Tina?
Yeah, so I did tell a little story about gifts, and I do feel very strongly that way. I mean, I love shopping. I love shopping for myself. So I'm very particular, and I take my time. I have a friend who says she can't go shopping with me without taking a Xanax, because I take a very long time figuring out what I want.
Yes.
And I will grab everything in the store, try everything on, and not care how long. So I think with gifts, I'm particular. So I like to pick out my own things. And when somebody else gives me a gift, it's just, I don't know. I would just prefer something more, for me, something more meaningful, which again, if it's a foot rub, because, I was walking around all day or was in some sort of event and I'm tired when I come home, that is a gift to me. And that would be special, instead of buying me flowers. Even flowers. I mean, lots of girls like getting flowers, but they die so quickly. And I even tell my daughter not to pick flowers out of the ground because now they're immediately dead. So even flowers, I'm not big on flowers either. But the little heartfelt notes, handmade gifts. When we decorated early, we broke out all the Christmas decorations.
I love it.
Yeah, we have a bunch of ornaments that go on the tree, but the ones that I really cherish are the ones that are handmade. We have a couple that we made at your house, Paula, and they're dated, so you can reflect on what you were going through at that point in your life, because it just brings you to that moment when you see that date and you see what was created. So with me and my daughter, it was really special to see all of those ornaments we made together, or the ones with our photos over the years. And with Adam, I mean, 12 years, you look at photos of us from 2010, we were so much younger, so much different than we are today. And to think that, we have that much history with each other, and we're still working on making something out of, I don't know, just to make the best out of our situation.
You're making a weed.
Yes. And building a home and, trying to make the best life we can for each other.
There you go.
Like those gifts, receiving gifts to me, if it is a gift, it's got to be a heartfelt one. It's got to be a meaningful one. Something that doesn't cost money. Those are the ones that are the best gifts to receive. The very expensive, lavish gifts, I could do without.
So I kind of feel the same way about gifts as Tina does, but because I actually buy myself flowers every 2 weeks. I buy myself a bouquet of flowers. Sometimes it's a potted plant, but I kill potted plants. But I buy flowers and they sit on my kitchen table. Every 2 weeks, I buy myself flowers because I like the way they look, even though they're gonna die. I get it, but they're pretty, right? They make me smile. But I can do that myself. I don't need somebody else to do that for me. That's not to say if that's your love language that's the wrong thing, as a child, so I know why I don't like it so much. As a child, my other grandmother on the other side, so this is my mother's mother, she I have my Nan Shook and my Nan Baker. And my Nan Baker used to give us the Sears catalog every year, big, thick. It was like this thick, and then an entire section for toys. And both me and my brothers and my sister and my two cousins, we could all pick whatever we wanted in the Sears catalog. So we seriously circle 20, 30, 50 things. And when we went to her house on Christmas, we had a pile like 5 feet by 5 feet, at least, completely filled with toys that we had circled in this book, right? And right down to, we're talking the 80s. So this is when Cabbage Patch Kids are huge. And me and my two cousins, my grandmother would send my grandfather out to stores to go there at the crack of dawn on Black Friday to buy us the things that we wanted. So getting gifts as a child, it was something that happened very easily over there. Unfortunately, that same person was not very receptive to showing love in any other way. So in fact, they were like, well, I buy you a lot of toys, so you should come visit me more often. It was one of those conditional things. So I learned that people give me gifts, they're gonna want me to do other stuff in return. So I don't want gifts. A gift on occasionally, especially something you put a lot of thought into. When my birthday rolls around and you went through every coffee mug because you know how I am about coffee, and you found a cute little one that has a unicorn with a rainbow tail, and that you really thought about, that's different. But I do not need to be lavish with gifts, because the back of my brain, my subconscious, says to me, what does he want in return? I'm going to read a couple comments. We have James Flamish says, hi, Paula. Hi, James. He supports me on like all social media outlets through the music industry in the Lehigh Valley. We got Debbie Vrooman here. Hello, Debbie.
Debbie. Hey, James.
A lot of people watching tonight on and off, which is making me super happy. Then a why hello, ladies, from James Pepe. So Mark watching, TJ watching, Michelle watching, Alex watching, so many people tuning into us tonight, which makes me so up. And there's Corey, my first guest. Hey. We're so glad all of you are here with us tonight, joining us to learn all about these love languages and how you can make life a little bit better. We're talking right now about gifts. And for those of you who feel strongly about receiving gifts, it's just different than my love language. Like we said before, it's not wrong. It's just different. If we were all the same, this world would be a pretty boring freaking place. So if you like to get gifts, then express that you like to get gifts. If you need to get certain gifts, there is no shame in being like, honey, I really want this bracelet from this store with this gem, with this thing, because that's who you are. And if there's people around that have a problem with the fact that you say point blank what it is to fulfill your love language, that's their problem, not yours. So what's the last category that we had to cover?
Quality time.
Quality time. Oh, quality time. There's never enough quality time. For me, quality time falls in at 3. So go through my list real quick. I'm touch, way high on the the thing there. In fact, I've already told friends, when you leave and don't hug me, I feel like you don't like me anymore, and I go home and I cry. So don't do that. Hug me before you leave because I need that. So touch is real high. The next is words of affirmation. You're telling me I'm doing a good job, I'm a rock star, that you're proud of me. That gets me going. Third one is quality time. Then is gifts. And then, as we all know, acts of service play nothing for me. That's US dollar in Iran, and you can't buy nothing. So, but when we're talking about quality time, I had a big talk with Rebecca before the show about quality time because she and her ex, they used to just sit in the same room, and he would be playing his video game and she would be playing her video game, and they wouldn't even be talking or nothing. And they counted that as quality time, right? To me, that is not quality time. If I'm on this computer and you're sitting over there doing your own thing, that's two people in the same room. It's not quality time. We should be focused on each other. We should be experiencing each other, enjoying each other. That's quality time to me. So I wanted to point that out, that even within a love language, you can have different ideas of what quality time is, of what words of affirmation are. So how do you feel about quality time, Tina?
Okay, so this was number 4 for, well, it's number 3 really, because number 2 is tied. I feel like there's two things in the same place, but anyway, it's the second to last for me. And quality time, I value as well. It got 20. And I would say that is time where it's just him and I. For me, that's what it would be. It's us two alone. Even if we're not focused directly on each other, it's us doing an activity together alone without any distractions. And partially that's because we have a small child, so she requires a lot of attention, and we love her to death. She's the best thing ever. But it is nice to have a date night and just have time for him and I, to just keep the romance alive, really. And for him, though, his quality time is a little bit different. He really values time out with his friends, like mingling with other couples. So for his quality time, it would be us going to an event or traveling to see some of his friends that he hasn't seen in a while. And even if I really don't want to do that, like, I'll give you an example. My birthday was recently, and his friend was turning 40. So his friend's birthday party turned out to be on my birthday, and he asked me to travel out of state to celebrate someone else's birthday. And that was really difficult for me because I did want to be around everyone in my family, especially my daughter,
your own birthday,
on my birthday, and celebrate that. But because I love him and I know that this rate's really high on his list, and we are trying to make an effort for each other to strengthen our relationship, I went, and it was tough, but I smiled, and I did have a nice time, and I met a lot of great people out there, and he was very grateful for it. He was very thankful, and I think it really strengthened our relationship, and that is not something I would have done 10 years ago. Absolutely not. So
he's growing, he's getting better. I love this story.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example how, like, I wouldn't even consider that quality time going out with other people, but it can be to certain couples. That's their quality time, going out with other couples, mingling with other couples, spending time. Well, obviously I work at a bar and a bowling alley, so I know a lot of couples who spend time bowling in leagues together, and that's not something I would necessarily pick to do, bowl in a league and consider that quality time, but I'm sure they do because they do it every Tuesday or every Thursday or every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so I'm sure they're getting more out of it than I would.
I mean, I was in a handicap bowling league in a past relationship, and it was a lot of fun.
Bowling is awesome. I have to say that. They pay me to say that.
You should have had your shirt on.
Steel City Bowling Bruce. Okay, so now that we've gone through the 5 love languages, just quick reminders that these things can change. Like Tina mentioned, 10 years ago, she wouldn't have felt that way about something. For some of us, things don't change. I've been a touch person my entire life. I'd be willing to bet you I'm gonna be a touch person until I die, because I feel so strongly about that I just get such a jolt from it that nothing tops that. But I could change. Truth be told, your entire body regenerates every 7 years. Every cell in your body regenerates. Every 7 years, that cell is brand new. So this is why you can outgrow allergies. This is why if you damaged your liver, it can become better as long as you don't continue to damage it with whatever. This is why when you quit smoking after 7 years, you drastically increase your lifespan and things, because your body's constantly regenerating. So since your body's constantly regenerating, it stands to reason that you could change your preferred love language in that same 7 years. So be aware that you're changing and your significant other is changing, your children are changing, your friends are changing. Okay, and be patient with everyone. So the main reason for this particular topic was so you could learn your own love language, but it's equally because we want to be happy. So if you can't be happy unless you know what happy means. So if you know that maybe your relationships are not fulfilling you because you're a words of affirmation person and everybody is doing acts of service, then you need to communicate a little better to the people around you and you'll find yourself in a happier spot. But the other reason we wanted to have this episode is because we talk a lot about our relationships with other people. We talk a whole lot about how it's okay to drop relationships that no longer serve your positivity and how you want to feed the relationships that make your life better. So last time I had a show, I had Lisa on from Imperfect is Beautiful, and we were talking about how you should feed the positive relationships in your life. And the best way to feed a good relationship is to give them their love language. See, there's another conversation. I live with my 19-year-old daughter. If anybody doesn't know, I have 4 kids, but one still lives at home. So a lot of my conversations I have with her. Sorry, I was distracted by a comment. And so I bounced a lot of stuff off of Rebecca. And when I asked her what her love language was, she told me that her love language was words of affirmation, but to other people, she does acts of service and physical touch. And I was like, I don't think you can decide what you do for other people. But the truth of the matter is, you can decide what you do for other people. It doesn't necessarily provide them with what they need. So you want to make sure that you are giving them what they need from you to show that you love them, right? Famous line, like, I did love the person, they just didn't believe me, or I just couldn't show it the way that they needed me to. And so if the person that you need to show love to is a acts of service person, then it doesn't matter that I'm a touch person. I shouldn't be touching them all the time. Maybe they don't want me to touch them at all. I should be taking out the trash and going to work and changing the oil in the car and those other things to make sure that they know that they're loved because I'm showing it in their way. But ideally, I was just looking at my notes and cheating over here. I don't want to miss this point. Ideally, we do this, we think this is going to happen to all of us. We're taught this because we think we're going to live in this fairy tale world. But ideally, we want to find a mate that loves the same way we do, because then it's easy. When you hear about couples who are like, oh, it was just easy. We knew from the start, and it was, like, things just worked out. Yeah, we went through stuff, but we worked it out and we always could talk. And those people speak the same love language. That's why it works for them, because he's a toucher and she's a toucher. So she touches him and he goes, oh my God, I feel so loved. So he touches her back and she goes, oh my God, I feel so loved. And then they're touching and touching and touching and touching and everybody feels wonderful. And they have to like actually take a break from each other because they're so happy with what they're doing. But same for the other end of my spectrum, she's making dinner for him and he's going to work every day and she's raising the kids and he thinks that's a wonderful way to show you love me, and she's walking the dog and he's taking out the trash, and they're so happy with each other because they speak the exact same love language. Unfortunately, for most of us, almost all of us, we don't speak the same love language. And as we've talked many, many times on this show, because we change over time and our love languages change, sometimes we start off speaking the same language and we grow apart. And then that if we're not going to recognize our differences and communicate our differences, then we're just going to drive a spike into our relationships. And when you refuse to acknowledge the other person's feelings and their love language, then your relationship cannot flourish. And that's a relationship you may have to let go. Anything to add to that, Tina?
I mean, that is exactly where we were. That is exactly where we were. It was almost like, so we were getting ready to get married. We were like 3 months away from getting married. And I kept pushing it. I was so ready. I was committed. And I thought that was really going to help us. That was going to make us stronger, was going to make us better. But here on the other end, I wasn't listening to him. I wasn't hearing him. I didn't understand him. I didn't want to understand him. I wanted him to understand me. And, he wasn't ready. And we were on two different levels. I mean, we just weren't communicating well. And honestly, I don't think we cared. We didn't care to communicate at that time. We had so many things happen and we didn't handle them the right way. And eventually we just stopped caring about helping the other person or hearing the other person. And it just got to the point where we thought it was better to just not be together. And honestly, it was better because the relationship imploded and we both took time to figure out what we really wanted, like what really makes us happy, what really makes us tick. And yeah, we're different people than we were when we first met. But the thing that stayed the same, that we absolutely know for sure now, is that we love each other. Yeah. We tried relationships with other people, and if you try to be in a relationship, for me at least, trying to be in a relationship with another person, I really did give it my best effort, but always missing and yearning and longing for someone else. It's, I don't know. So eventually, and we were great co-parents. We stayed friends. We supported each other. We still talk to each other on a regular basis. And it just made us, I think it made us love each other more deeply.
Yeah, and I think it's actually really important to be friends with your significant other. If you don't start off friends first, that you make sure that you stay friends and are friends, like that they should be your best friend. Not that you only have one best friend. Like I have a lot of best friends, but they should be the person that you feel comfortable going to with like all your stuff. That should be what it is. So somebody asked a question. I'm just going to read it now. Do either of you grade your love language with a curve, or does it take a while for flexibility? And I think what we're asking here is that, are we strict? Like, do we think it's only this, only that, but Tina already described hers as like 27% this, 24% that, 22% that. So there's obviously a mixture for most people. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. There's a mixture for most people as to what love languages they use. So some of them are heavier and some of them are lighter. I'm the same way, but I tend to be really flexible in a lot of ways, and love is not an exception. So doesn't matter what you want to throw at me. I can adapt pretty well now. I could not adapt when I was younger. It wasn't as easy for me to do those things, but now I am, because I'm so happy with myself and I'm so happy with my life and I'm so happy with the people in my life, I'm willing to adapt and change my way of thinking in most instances so that I can better accommodate the positivity in my life. So as long as the people that I'm having relationships are also flexible and also want to build this relationship with me, then I think, everything is a learning process. Every relationship is something you're building, and you're learning how to build it, because there is no map on how to make it work, right? And if you can start with a good base, even better. But a lot of us start off on unknown soil because we just don't know each other well enough. We jump into relationships and we don't have a foundation, so we have to build it on the way. So I hope that answered your question about being flexible with your love languages, but please keep in mind that your love language could change. If not totally, like I said, I think my touch will be there forever, but there are times when I seriously appreciate words of affirmation more because I can't touch the person. Or and here's a big one that everybody, it's part of loving people. You should love people the way they need to be loved, and you should communicate to them how you need to be loved so they love you properly. But try to keep in mind, like if their love language is words of affirmation and they say things to you all the time, like, don't forget to eat today, and God, you look really beautiful in that sweater. If they're saying those things to you and you know that that's the way they need to be loved, please try to remember that that's them showing love to you. I mean, that was part of my problem. I did not see acts of service as showing me love. So every time he did it, I just, I don't want that, right? But now, because I'm more mature and I'm more open and my heart is more open to love, I'm more willing to accept other people's love language as an expression to me, though I definitely want to make sure they know what mine is so they can accommodate me a little better. So the show is almost wrapped up. We had a lot of people pop in today. I'm so happy about all these names on the screen. There's so many people that I love, or that I've had important places in my life, old friends, new friends. So thank you everybody for popping in and checking on us. In a nutshell, to wrap everything up, we went through the 5 love languages, find out what yours is, communicate what yours is, know or figure out what your loved one's love language is so that you can show love to them in a more effective way, and try to be open-minded. When Tina and I were chatting about acts of service, I was pretty much like, no, stop that.
She was.
Oh, it was. Washing the dishes just means you're a grown-up. It doesn't mean you love me. It means you understand dishes need washing.
Agree to disagree.
But I'm saying we're all different. The wonderful thing that we're all different.
I mean, Paula, but before you completely wrap it up, I do want to say you're doing a great job. You're amazing. And I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. You're doing a great job too. I totally love doing this show. I totally love doing all my daily posts, all the stuff that I do, because even if just one person says to me like, oh my gosh, this helps me so much, or today I was feeling really blue and your thing reminded me, or one person takes a test and figures out what their love language is and applies it to their relationship and tries to make their life a little better, I got to make the world a brighter place. Because one of the big things that I believe, big things that I believe, is that the most important thing that you do with this life is leave a mark. You're leaving a mark on this planet, and you can leave a good mark or you can leave a bad mark. And I'm going to be gone one day. And I really want, when I leave, for people to be like, my life was better because she was in it. And even if they don't realize that it was me that did it, I want their life to be better because I was on this planet. So I am happy to be here. I am happy to be here, even if this room is like 1,000 degrees, because I have to shut the door because the Chihuahua will come in and boss me around. So I'm gonna sign off, say have a pleasant evening, open that door, go outside with the bossy chihuahua, maybe have a drink. And I still need a tagline. I keep wanting to sign off with something cute, like, stay classy, San Francisco. And I don't have a tagline. So if you can think of a tagline for me, you send me a good tagline, I'll take you to lunch.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, Steve. You give me a good tagline, I'll take you to lunch. Anyway, this is Pardon My Positivity. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Tina, for joining me this week.
Thank you.
I will be back in 2 weeks. What's the date in 2 weeks? I don't know. 2 weeks from now with a new guest.
November 27th.
What is it? November 27th. That's going to be a super great one because it's the day before my birthday. So I'm going to have to find a really special guest. Maybe I'll find a couple guests to join me on a Zoom. And we'll celebrate my birthday on Pardon My Positivity. That sounds like an excellent episode. We'll have a Paula's birthday episode because I realized recently that 2022 is the year that I changed my entire life and my life got that much better. And I found me. So this is really a very important birthday for me because it's the birthday where Paula was reborn because she was gone for so many years. So have a birthday party for me. See you all in 2 weeks. Thank you for coming. Mwah! Bye. And my mouse is dead. So this is a really nice ending. Bye.